You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be bringing you up to date with the latest Arsenal transfer stories. We're going to be talking Granit Xhaka and his new contract. We're going to be talking about Hector Bellerin's future, and we're also going to be taking your questions from the live chat box. Plenty to get through as always. Now, I should have done this yesterday ahead of the phone-in show, but I was so worried about making sure I could connect everybody that it completely slipped my mind, and I felt terrible after because it was something that I'd been talking about during the day with friends and family, and I just wanted to pay my condolences and on behalf of all the Chronicles of a Gooner family to this absolute legend, Gerd Müller, former German striker, one of the best in the business from what I've read, from what I've been told. I don't remember him because it was prior to my time, but big shout out to Gerd Müller. Love, respect, condolences to his family who, of course, are having to cope with the loss of the former German international who sadly passed away yesterday. So I wanted to get that done because I should have done it yesterday. I even uploaded the picture on the channel so that I could say it, and then it totally slipped my mind, which is totally not acceptable. So there we go. Rest in peace, Gerd Müller. Right. Big hello to everybody joining us in the live chat. Hope you're all well. Big hello to everybody watching this or listening to this back via the various platforms. We've seen so many of you tune in to the podcast versions and on the YouTube channel in the last few days. It's been amazing. So thank you for your continued support. Keep subscribing if you're new. Keep hitting those like buttons as well on the videos. That really, really does help. And thank you for all your birthday wishes. Yes, it is my birthday today at the time of recording, Monday. It is my birthday. I'm getting old, so I don't really want to make a big thing about it. Also, when your birthday's on a Monday, it's still a Monday, isn't it? So thank you for all the birthday wishes, though. You've made the day special. I've been glued to my phone all day. Had messages, calls, texts, tweets, everything, you name it. So thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate all your well wishes. And yeah, chapter 31 begins. But anyway, let's get on to the Arsenal, and let's start off by talking about Granit Xhaka. Now, the news that Granit Xhaka was going to sign a new contract when it broke about a week ago now boiled everybody's piss. Let's be quite honest. You know, there's so many Arsenal fans that believe that he is the root of all our problems, that believe that if Granit Xhaka leaves, Arsenal will miraculously turn into a top four side. And I'll tell you what, after watching that game against Brentford on Friday night, Arsenal have much deeper and bigger problems than Granit Xhaka. I didn't think he was great at Brentford, but I didn't think he was bad either. And I could tell you probably at least 6 other players on the pitch that had a worse night than him. I know that he divides opinion. I know that that incident that took place with Granit Xhaka has left a scar that will never heal for some Arsenal fans. But for me, we've got much bigger problems. And I think we just need to drop this whole thing now. He's here to stay. He's signed the contract. The contract will keep him here until 2025. Arsenal have taken up the option to extend his current deal, which was until 2024, by an extra year. That's what they've done. And they have the option to extend that further by an additional year, which could see him remain at the club until 2025. Now, we know Granit Xhaka was flirting with an exit. He was flirting with Roma in particular. There was lots and lots of talk about that over the course of the summer. But unfortunately, I guess for those who wanted him out, that deal never materialized. Roma were unwilling to meet the player's asking price. And as a result, he is staying put. Now, whether you like Granit or not, this is a decision that the club have taken. And that decision is, we're not going to go out and spend 35 to 40 million pounds on a midfielder because, in my opinion, they looked around and didn't feel that they'd be getting better value for that money in a lot of cases. We talked about some of the options over the summer. We talked about people like Ruben Neves, who was heavily linked with a move for Arsenal. And whilst I, repeatedly said I thought there were some attributes, there are some things that make Granit Xhaka, make Ruben Neves, a better option maybe than Granit Xhaka, or a more complete footballer. Actually, the difference between the two is not 20 plus million pounds. And that's what you're talking about if you're talking about selling Granit Xhaka for 12 million pounds and then trying to meet Wolves' asking price for Ruben Neves, which we thought was around about 35 million pounds. Is there that much difference in quality between those two players? I would argue there isn't. If you're talking about Arsenal going out there and getting Manuel Locatelli, then for me, that's a different ball game. But that was a deal that couldn't be done. So we move on. Granit Xhaka's here to stay. Granit Xhaka is part of this squad. He's part of this group. And I can tell you now that we have much bigger issues than Granit Xhaka. Is he perfect? No. But look at that group. Look at that squad of players that we've got at present. There are so many other areas that need addressing or improving on before we even look at Granit Xhaka as someone we need to be shifting out. So that's where I'm at on that one. I know it's left a lot of people frustrated, disappointed, but I wanted to bring your attentions to some interesting comments as well while we're on the subject of the Swiss midfielder from Brentford's. Where is it? Hold on. I had it on my screen and now it's disappeared. Where is it? Here we go. Brentford midfielder Christian Norgard, who of course scored Brentford's second goal on Friday night, talks about how important they saw Granit Xhaka to this Arsenal side. He said, our plan was to close down the middle where they have good players like Granit Xhaka. Although sometimes they did get a bit too much space and created dangerous moments through Smith Rowe, we closed it down the whole game. So Thomas Frank identifying Granit Xhaka and Arsenal's midfield as a potential problem. And they did a number on him. They did a job on him. And the fact that other footballers in other clubs look at this player as someone that is a useful player in the midfield says to me that maybe we as fans are a little bit harsh at times on Granit Xhaka. Look, I think he'll look a lot better with a fit Thomas Partey next to him. I think at times last season, they looked like a really formidable pair. Did they produce enough in terms of creative moments? Did they split lines with passes? Did they get us in behind? Not always. Not always. And that was something that they needed to improve on. Or alternatively, you need to improve on that in more advanced areas. You need your number 10 then to be a little bit more involved. You need your wingers to contribute a little bit more as well in order to cater for that. But I just think for me, he didn't move on. He's here now. So what's the point in going on about it? What's the point in being up in arms about the fact that his deal's been extended? It's part of basically, we're rebuilding. We need to do it. It's going to be painful. Is Mikel Arteta the right man to do it? That remains to be seen. And we're going to do an in-depth podcast tomorrow about why, tomorrow being Tuesday, about who actually is to blame for Arsenal. Because I've been thinking a lot about this. Who is actually to blame for Arsenal's demise? I've been thinking a lot about it since the phone-in we did last night, because I spoke to 15, 16 of you, and everybody had slightly different viewpoints on who is to blame. Some went straight for KSE, others went straight for Arteta. And so I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been waiting around a lot today. I've had a couple of appointments and I've been waiting around a lot. And it's given me time to kind of think and reflect and explore some of those theories in my own mind a little bit more. And I've come to some conclusions. I've come to some theories, some viewpoints, and we'll be discussing those on the next episode. So stay tuned for that. Or if not the next episode, then one of the episodes that will be coming out on Tuesday. So lots to talk about on that. But, we need to rebuild as a football club. For whatever reason, we're at this place where we need to rebuild. I don't think anybody can deny that. We've got players that are not good enough. We've got players that are hanging around the club, frankly, stinking out the place because they don't want to be there. We've got Alexander Lacazette and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang reportedly being left out because they've had a dispute with Mikel Arteta. Some reports yesterday were saying that their attitude in training was was unacceptable in Mikel Arteta's eyes, and that's why they're missing. Now, I don't know that, and I don't want to, I don't want to pour fuel on the fire, but it is a report that's doing the rounds, and a lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, there must be more to this. If Chris Wheatley's report is to be believed, Chris Wheatley of Football.London, who said that there are doubts for the game against Chelsea on Sunday, you're sitting there thinking, well, if it is illness, like Mikel Arteta said, unless they've got COVID and they have to isolate, how could you possibly know 8 days in advance of the game that they have doubts? It just feels to me like there is more to that. So we're going to have to hold fire on that and see exactly what materializes. But two players, again, one is in the last year of his contract and one is over the hill in a lot of people's eyes. And what you end up with is a situation where the team needs rebuilding. We need to rip out a lot of this squad and start again. And with that comes pain. With that comes transition. And with transition will inevitably come inconsistency and at times poor results. Now, I'm not saying Arsenal's defeat at Brentford is acceptable, that we should accept it in any way, shape or form. I was bitterly disappointed off the back of that game. But what I would say is I didn't expect it to be plain sailing from the start of the season. And I will be judging Mikel Arteta a lot more harshly this season, for sure. He deserves to be under scrutiny. He needs to prove himself to the Arsenal fan base. He needs to show more. But I'm not going to start jumping up and down after one game. And I know people say, yeah, but it's not one game. This has been going on for ages and ages and ages. This stems from last season, and I totally agree with that. But if you didn't sack him after Villarreal, that means you're going to give him the next season, right? Or at least a respectable amount of time to turn it around. So for me, you either sacked him after Villarreal at the end of last season, sack him after that Europa League exit, which was embarrassing, or you give him sufficient time to prove himself this season. Arsenal took the decision to give him more time, and only time will tell if that decision is going to be the right one or not. I think a lot of us who backed Mikel Arteta, not blindly, because I get that thrown at me a lot. I get people saying, why do you blindly back Mikel Arteta? I don't blindly back him. I see a lot of faults in Mikel Arteta. I talk about them all the time on this podcast, but they seem to go over people's heads because it doesn't suit them sort of throwing shit at me and saying that I'm a Arteta loyalist and and I'm desperate for him to succeed. I am accused often of wanting Mikel Arteta or defending Mikel Arteta because I was so adamant that I didn't want Unai Emery. And I don't think that's fair, because the two are not interlinked in any way. The two situations are based, in my mind, solely on their own merit. Did I rate Unai Emery? Did I think he was the right fit for Arsenal? I absolutely didn't. Do I think that Mikel Arteta is? I didn't at the start. If you cast your minds back, there was a podcast where I had a debate with Alavi and DeLuca on our social club show. And I said I'd prefer Carlo Ancelotti at the time. We ended up getting Mikel Arteta. He spoke really well. We won the FA Cup. And I did feel quite positive. I did accept, understand and enjoy the whole challenge of this thing, that Mikel Arteta was coming in and essentially ripping out the heart of a squad that in many of our eyes was dead, was finished, was over the hill, was holding us back. But with that come problems. It's not always going to be that easy. It's not going to be, we've got Mesut Ozil out. Now that means creatively we're never going to have a problem. You lose someone like Mesut Ozil for whatever reason, you leave him out of the squad, etc., etc. You're losing a top quality creative player. He's gone, finished. And now you have to replace him. And Arsenal are trying to and have turned to Emile Smith-Rowe, but Emile Smith-Rowe is a young man and it's too much weight to put on his shoulders at this stage. But if that's the route Arsenal are going down of this long rebuild, then we kind of, I don't know, we kind of have to acknowledge that there will be issues along the way. Now, I'm at a place where I believe that regardless of whether Arsenal are going through a rebuild or not, we need to maintain a basic standard. As a big club, a club of this size, we need to maintain a certain standard. And unfortunately, last season we didn't do that. And based on the start of this season, it's looking like that's going to be really, really difficult for us. So, you know, I am worried for him. I do think that there's a very good chance he doesn't last the season. But also, I'm not naive enough to think that if Mikel Arteta goes, Arsenal all of a sudden turn around, because the problems are much deeper than that. And I said I wasn't going to talk about this. I said I was going to talk about Granit Xhaka and Hector Bellerin, but we'll come on to that in a little bit more detail as to why I don't think Arsenal would necessarily turn the corner immediately if Mikel Arteta was sacked, you know, on another episode, because it's worth doing an entire episode. But you know, I'm upset. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated with what I saw in the first game of the season. But as I say, you know, let's look at it 5-6 games down the line. Let's take a few comments from the chat before we move on. Lung Burkamp is going at me again. Harry, collect your tea and biscuits at the Emirates. There's a space for you at the post-match presser next to Benj Watts and all the other arse kissers. To be honest with you, and I've gone on record saying this, you can actually find videos where I've said this. I don't prefer being in the press box to being in the stands. I don't. What would I prefer about it? You get access to the post-match press conference in which you know exactly what the manager's going to say. The usual suspects get to ask the questions, and most of the rest of us end up sitting there without getting an opportunity to say anything because the press officer calls time before that opportunity presents itself. The atmosphere is shit. Everybody's got their heads in their laptops. You know, it's not something that, you know, it's something that I appreciate having the opportunity to do. And I do, like, I am thankful that I've had that opportunity. But like for the game on Sunday against Chelsea, no joke, if you said to me, would you rather sit in the press box with your laptop in front of you, where you have to stay seated all the time, you can't sing, you can't jump up and down when a goal goes in, or would I prefer to be in block 6, row 16, seat 193 with all my friends that I've been going to the games with for years? Then I'd pick that any day of the week. I honestly would. So I don't get why you think I'm trying to talk my way into the press box. I really am not. Alex says, Harry, in a kind way, if you didn't think Emery was the man when others did, you got to understand when us fans are not into Arteta right now when you are. I'm not into Arteta, though. This is the thing, okay? I was at the beginning. I wasn't at the very beginning. I was anti the appointment. Then I was okay with it because he won me over. And I recognized that this was going to be a really long and painful process. And I am starting to have doubts now about Mikel Arteta. I expressed them after the Villarreal game last season when we were dumped out of the Europa League. And I've expressed them on multiple occasions since. I talked about it straight after the Brentford game. You know, Mikel Arteta is under incredible scrutiny right now, and he's under incredible pressure, and rightly so. If Mikel Arteta got sacked tomorrow, you wouldn't hear me getting up on my soapbox and speaking to people and saying, you know, we made a mistake, we should have kept him, because I completely appreciate and get that there's not been enough progress, you know, for Arsenal to be sure that he is the right man for the job. The issue for me, and as, again, we're going to talk about it in an episode, what faith do I have in Vinay Venkatesham, Edu, Josh Cronky, Stan Cronky, Richard Garlick, to make me feel, what faith do I have in those guys that they're going to get the next appointment right? One of the biggest decisions that Arsenal had to make in their entire history, or in the time I've been a supporter, was replacing Arsene Wenger. Who do you replace Arsene Wenger with? The man was an institution. The man was, you know, yes, he had his faults, and towards the end, things weren't going very well. But that decision of replacing him had to be right. It's like Manchester United. You know, Manchester United are in a better position because they've got more money to spend and they can rectify things quicker. But when Manchester United lost Sir Alex Ferguson, they replaced him with David Moyes. they made the wrong appointment. At the time, they made the wrong appointment, and they've been playing catch-up ever since. Manchester United, who used to waltz to Premier League titles, who used to dominate English football, were celebrating a second-place finish last season, were beaten in the Europa League final by Villarreal. That's what I'm talking about. You make the wrong decision after a man like that leaves your football club, whether it be Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger. You've got to make the right call. And neither club has done that. And both clubs have suffered for the best part of a decade? You know, Man United have suffered, for the best part of a decade since he went. Arsenal are probably going to suffer for around about that long as well, because you get that kind of decision wrong and it can steer your club in the total wrong direction for a long period of time. And I do think that Arsenal did get that wrong. And you can kick out Mikel Arteta tomorrow. But again, it comes back to what I said previously. Do you trust in Vinay? Do you trust in the Cronkies? Do you trust in Richard Garlick to appoint the right man to succeed him? I think they'd appoint a cheap option. I think they'd appoint a manager that doesn't challenge them, just like they've always done. And that is the root of Arsenal's issues right now. Mikel Arteta is an issue because he's not managing the team well enough, but he's not the biggest issue. That's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. Right, let's move on to the Hector Bellerin stuff, and then we'll come on to some of your questions. So just to recap for those of you joining late, Granit Xhaka's contract has been extended. According to Chris Wheatley, that Arsenal have taken up the option to extend it by a further year, taking it till 2024. And then, of course, they have the option to extend that to 2025 as well, if they wish to do so. In other news, we're going to talk a little bit about Hector Bellerin, because, of course, he has wanted to leave Arsenal for quite some time now. Hector Bellerin wanted to leave the Gunners last summer, and it emerged later on that he was asked to stay at the club by Mikel Arteta and give us another season before he'd be allowed to leave. Now, of course, COVID hit. All of that stuff has to be taken into account, but you've got a player now in Hector Bellerin who doesn't want to be at the club, and who, according to reports today, on Monday, that is really, really pushing for the move. He's said to be very frustrated at the way things have gone. He feels that his relationship with Arsenal is not working for him at the moment, and it's also not working for the club. He's a big earner, Hector Bellerin, and Mikel Arteta doesn't see him clearly as the first choice right back, which is a problem. What do we do with this situation? I spoke about it earlier in the window, and I remember saying that I do feel like the later we get in this window, the more likely Arsenal are to find some kind of compromise that works for Hector Bellerin and helps the player, helps them move the player on and get him off the wage bill. Bellerin, remember, was instrumental in Arsenal getting their players to agree to a pay cut, and the club, I was told, held him in very high esteem as a result of that. They see him as a bit of an ambassador, does lots of great work outside of football, got all the right kind of image and all of that stuff, and also helped behind the scenes to get the players to come to that agreement, which supposedly did the club a massive favor. So I've always felt that the longer this window goes on, the more likely it is that Arsenal will bite the bullet and just say, let him go. You know, we'll take a lower offer. We'll take something, some kind of solution that allows Hector Bellerin to get what he wants, and we get him out of the club. And I still feel that will be the case. I'd be very surprised if the window slams shut on August 31st and Hector Bellerin is still an Arsenal player. I feel a bit sorry for him, because if he did want to leave last summer and Arsenal held him, and now they won't move him on because they don't feel anyone's matching his valuation, that must be incredibly frustrating. But equally, from the club's point of view, you don't want to be bent over. You don't want to have your pants pulled down by potential suitors coming in, taking the piss with derisory offers for your players. So it is a catch-22, and it's a catch-22 that's been caused by this weird market, by this damaged market. And when I'm talking about the market, I'm not talking about Premier League. You know, we look at things sometimes in a very insular way, but outside of the Premier League, football is in trouble. You know, you look at the Italian clubs really struggling for finance. Same with La Liga. Jean Laporta's talked about Barcelona's debt today being over 1.15 billion pounds. He said it had increased by more than 170 million pounds since January, which tells you how bad things have been for so many clubs on the continent. So it's no surprise to me that nobody is matching Arsenal's supposed 20 million pound valuation for the player. That is excessive. It's incredibly excessive. And that's why Bellerin, I feel, will probably be frustrated because, and I always refer to this episode, we did an episode where we valued all our players. We did an episode where we talked about what we might hope to get from each and every one of the players that we thought might be leaving the club. And again, you know, I laughed at the idea of Bellerin going for 20 million because it's just not going to happen. It really, really isn't. Get your questions in the chat box. Let's take some of your questions before we wrap up tonight's live stream. If you're listening via the podcast, via Apple, via Spotify, or anywhere else, make sure you leave us a review. That really, really helps. We appreciate you guys just as much as the guys on YouTube as well. It's the same content going out across all platforms, so don't worry. You're not missing out on anything, whether you're listening one way or the other. But yeah, as I say, get those questions in. Let's check where we are in terms of likes at the moment as well. Come on, it's my birthday today, so you can give me a couple of likes extra. That will really help. That really helps the channel, really helps get the video in front of more people as well. I can see that we've got 64 likes on the board right now, but there's over 320 of you watching us on YouTube alone right now. So we got to get that up. We got to get to the 100 mark at least sooner rather than later. Also, if you'd like to become a member of the channel and support me to bring you daily Arsenal content, then you can do so by clicking on the link in the description. Also, just want to quickly remind you that this podcast is brought to you by manscaped.com. So for all your male grooming needs, head over to their website, check out their fantastic range of products. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. As I say, 90min20 is the discount code. Get 20% off plus free shipping. Your partner will thank you. I can promise you that. Another bit of weird news that I wanted to quickly touch on before you guys pop your comments in there. So get your questions in. And actually, there's one related to this, so it's perfect. Hold on a second. Where is it? Alex McCarthy. What are your thoughts on the tweets released by the Rwandan president? I'm really hoping that it hit a nerve towards KSE's poor ownership and preparation. This is what I was just about to talk about. This is extraordinary. Because Arsenal, obviously, as you'll know, have the logo Visit Rwanda on their shirt sleeves. And they've had it for a couple of seasons now. It's a deal that's supposed to be worth around about £10 million a year to the club in terms of sponsorship revenue. And it's designed to drive tourism, right, to Rwanda. You know, you see it with loads of countries. They do it. You know, they advertise, they try and boost the tourism in their country, etc., etc. And apparently Arsenal have actually just renewed that deal for another couple of years. But interestingly, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has been critical of the Cronkies and Arsenal Football Club. And his last tweet came, which I'm sure you've all seen, following the defeat at Brentford. So he's chucking a load of money at the football club to wear the Visit Rwanda logo, and then jumping on social media and slagging us off, which is incredible. But this is a question from Alex, as I say. He says, what are my thoughts on the tweet released by the Rwandan president? Look, if he is a supporter, then he'll be feeling like the rest of us. He says he's a supporter. So, yeah, I'm sure he's feeling the frustration as well. It was a bit of a strange one for me, especially given the reasons I've just mentioned, that obviously there is a sponsorship in place. But that's how he feels. That's how he feels. And the fact that even he's going to those lengths, someone who has a vested interest outside of just following the football club, it tells you a lot about the current state of affairs, if you ask me. Big hello to Ayoku, who joins us from Canada. He says, greetings from Canada. You have to agree that Arteta is the problem. Martinelli was missing just like Oba those last days. That tells me it's the way the manager is playing. Yeah, I talked about it on our tactical review show. After the Brentford game, I talked about it the next morning, about the fact that that position feels like a bit of a dead position to me in this current Arsenal system, that we don't get the maximum out of whoever's playing in it because of our reliance on the fullback to create space, and that takes away from whatever player is playing there. It almost banishes the left winger from the left wing. It almost says to them, because of the way we're going to play and because we're going to get Kieran Tierney into those positions, actually, you can't hang around here. You can't stand here. And I do think that is a problem on certain players' game. I agree that Mikel Arteta is getting that wrong. I've not denied that. I think that's a really fair point. And I agree that Mikel Arteta right now is a problem. Yes, I do. My point has only ever been that I think there are bigger problems, and I think there are more urgent problems that need addressing, like the fact we've got a 370k a week captain who doesn't seem to want to know if, of course, those reports are to be believed, or who was pissing around in training, which is equally as bad. Let's see what else we've got in the chat box. Remember, hit that like button while you're at it, and a big thank you for all the birthday wishes, man. There's loads in the comments. Really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. What else have we said? Let's see. Let's take this one from Wesbird. Arsenal stay up, but Cronkies stay, or Arsenal get relegated, but the Cronkies go. I can never want the Arsenal to get relegated. But if there was a guarantee that an ambitious owner was going to come in, then I might consider that, season in the championship might not be so bad. Let's take this one from Osman Ali. He says, every level of the men's footballing side is failing. This club is rotting. I think we might get relegated next season. Do you agree this could happen, and why? I feel like we're still a long way from relegation. I really do. Arsenal obviously were in a position last season at 1.15th where people were starting to go, hold on a minute, this could be a possibility. And I know there have been good sides on paper that have gone down in the past, Leeds United being a classic example of that. But I don't think Arsenal are in that place yet. I don't think that we are we're in a position where we've got to worry about that for right now. If we continue in this vein, though, there's no reason why it wouldn't be a genuine concern later down the line. But I'm not worried about it this season. I probably wouldn't be worried about it next season either. But as I said a little bit earlier on, Arsenal are a huge football club and have to maintain a certain standard, a standard of which is currently not being maintained. And that is simply not good enough in itself. Harry Gray says, just tuned in a bit late, listened to the Biden speech on Afghanistan. I haven't seen that, probably watch it later. He says, happy birthday, Harry. Thank you very much, mate. Can you give me a quick summary of what your thoughts on the Xhaka extension was, please? Drop the like for you. I just think they looked around. And didn't see any value in the transfer market. They looked at some options. They approached clubs about some options and felt that given their inability, or given the problems they've had trying to move players on this summer, that they were better off focusing and spending what money they do have on other areas of the pitch. That's what I believe. Am I overwhelmed by it? Am I thrilled about it? No, I'm not. I had prepared myself to kind of move on from Granit Xhaka. I was in that mindset that we were going to move on, and that was going to change us stylistically a little bit and bring something different to the table. But it wasn't to be. It's not happening. But equally, I'm not even going to say a Granit Xhaka fan, but being someone who doesn't think he's anywhere near as bad as the rest of the Arsenal fan base, it's not a decision I'm upset about. It's not a decision I'm pissed off about. And I really don't understand a lot of the outrage about it. Cable says, given our 6-0 under-23 loss to West Ham United earlier and the sacking of Steve Bold, what do you think of the state of the club's youth overall? It's hard, isn't it? Because you say that, but we've brought through, not this season, but in the last few seasons, quite a few players. You look at somebody like Joe Willock, he's just been sold for £25 million. You talk about Emile Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, very good players. Could you argue that there's not enough of them coming through? Yeah, probably. But Steve Bold didn't do a good job last season with the under-23s. And I understand all the whole, he is an Arsenal legend, and I get all of that. And I've met Steve, and I think he's fantastic. I've had a chat with him at an under-23 game. And I think he's a fantastic guy, proper Arsenal man. But you can't always allow sentiment to drive decisions. I haven't seen that under 23s game. And if I'm completely honest, I don't follow the under 23s as much as I should. So I'm going to kind of pass on that one. But, results like that, obviously on face value, don't look very good. Mario B says, Oba Coutinho swap deal is everywhere now. Even the Sky Sports bods are picking it up and reporting it. What's your thoughts? I'm not big on Coutinho anymore. There was a time where I thought he was a top player. During his time at Anfield, I thought he was sensational, but I don't think he's at that level anymore. I don't think he transforms his team. I don't think he brings more value than Oba's goals do. And equally, we were talking about Barcelona's financial situation. How the hell are they going to manage to take Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on with his 370 grand a week contract? Unless Coutinho's on more. That would be incredible if he was. Astonishing, in fact. But, I don't see this one having much legs, if I'm honest. It feels like a convenient story to write, given that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has seemingly been disciplined, and Felipe Coutinho is someone that Barca have been trying to move on for the best part of 4 or 5 years. Said Abdullah says, do you think Arteta's lost the dressing room? It's possible. I think it's possible that he's lost certain sections of it. Do I think he's lost everybody? No. I think there are a lot of players that have faith in Mikel Arteta, and I think you're starting to see who those players are because they get picked. But if it indeed it is true that Xhaka and Oba have had a bit of a disagreement and a falling out with the boss, then obviously that is a problem. They're two very influential characters. We know that he's fallen out with players in the past. We've seen him have poor relationships with the likes of Matteo Guendouzi, William Saliba, Mesut Ozil, Shkodran Mustafi, but to name a few. So I wouldn't say it's beyond the realms of possibility, but I don't know it to be the case. Mark says there are reports that Oba and Xhaka have COVID and the league wanted it hush-hush before the first game of the season. Have you heard anything to support this? No, I have not. That was kind of the initial thought I had when I heard that they were out and they were both ill, and Arsenal kind of refused, or Mikel Arteta refused to elaborate on that any further. The first thing that came to my mind was maybe it's COVID. Maybe they don't want to say it because that would have some implications in terms of isolations and would damage the squad going into the game against Brentford. I don't know, but I can't say I've heard anything on that. I've got to be honest. What else have we got in the chat box? NASA says, have you got a black eye? No, it's probably the shadow because I didn't turn the light around. It's facing kind of half that way. No, I haven't got a black eye. Not that I know of anyway. Akene says, Harry, unpopular opinion. I watched the match against Brentford again because I'm in America. Arsenal weren't that bad and the goals were unfortunate. Yeah, a little bit. They weren't the... Nah, I can't. I'm trying to be positive. I can't. I think the goals were shambolic, both of them. I think the first one, Callum Chambers doesn't get out quick enough to close down Sergi Canos after a really disappointing clearance. And on the second one, Arsenal were literally just bullied. That was a complete lack of desire, in my opinion, to win that ball that led to Brentford being in a place to turn that in. Let's take a couple more before I jump off. A couple of you asking about Mikel Arteta's playing style. Let's take this one from Walad. He says, Harry, can you please tell me what our playing style is under Pep Guardiola? Under Mikel Arteta, is basically what you saw from Pep Guardiola yesterday and what you saw from Manchester City. It's lots of possession, dominating possession, and hoping that will see you create the most chances, therefore score the most goals. The problem is that teams are so good when they want to set up defensively, are so stubborn that you have to be exceptional to break some of those units down. Manchester City have exceptional footballers who are capable of unlocking even the most stubborn defenses the majority of the time. Arsenal don't have that. And so for us, it's going to work. It's going to fail, more frequently than it does for Pep Guardiola. But I do think there are a lot of similarities. They're not exactly the same in terms of their shape, in terms of the system, but I think there are a lot of similarities to their overall philosophies, and I think that's probably a fair way of assessing it. Graham Page says, happy birthday and great show. Thank you, mate. He says, do you think Mikel Arteta is playing all players to show the board and fans what he has to work with? Is he maybe exposing the board? It hasn't been mentioned by anyone. I would agree with you if he was not talking about the board, refusing to talk about the board, kind of dodging the subject of how well they're backing him. But it feels to me like at every opportunity, Mikel Arteta bigs them up, and he talks about how great they've been with him and how supportive they are and how desperate they are to see the club rise back to the top. And that makes me feel like no, because if he was trying to make a point, if he was trying to expose them, he might not come out and say necessarily directly that they're not giving him what he needs, that they're not backing him. But equally, why would you praise them at every opportunity? And a lot of the praise that Mikel Arteta has thrown towards KSE has been unprompted. It's not been something that the journalists necessarily been looking for in their line of questioning. It's something that Mikel Arteta is volunteering to the press. So that makes me feel like that probably isn't the case. I wish a manager would come in and do that, but it just doesn't seem like that's the case at the moment, I've got to say. Let's see what else we've got. Again, thank you for all the birthday messages, man. Loads of them coming in. Thank you to Gino for your kind super chat donation, mate. Really, really appreciate it. Let's take this final question from Stephen Andrews before I head off and have one final birthday drink. He says, Harry, what do you think about the protest on Sunday before the game? I want those protests to be there every week. I want people to gather before every Arsenal home game and make their feelings known about KSE, their ownership, and the way this club is headed. My only thing with the protests is, and it's not an issue or a problem with them, because I was part of the last one. You know, I do believe in the idea that the Cronkies are the wrong people for the club. I just feel like sometimes as a football club, as fans, in fact, we let ourselves down with the way we go about it. And what I mean by that is the common thing is, you know, spend some fucking money. Well, Arsenal have spent a lot of money for many years now, but that money's been spent badly. For me, it's not about the amount of money that Arsenal spend. It's about the passive management style that the Cronkies have. It's the way they're absent all the time, the way they are spreading themselves across all these different franchises, as they like to call them, means they can't possibly give any single one of them the attention and the love that it deserves and that its fans deserve. And that's my issue with the Cronkies. They appoint the wrong people because they don't have a Scooby about football. Well, there you need to bring in the right people that do, and you need to bring in people that can help you in that department. The whole structure at Arsenal right now is just completely wrong. It's embarrassing. And as a result of that, we're struggling. We're in trouble. And we're in trouble because of all of those things I've just mentioned, not because we don't spend money. That's a real misconception. You know, this season, we'd all like to see Arsenal spend money. But Arsenal are coming out of, like many clubs, a global pandemic. And the only clubs outside of, everybody else is in the same boat, is what I'm trying to say. You know, Aston Villa have spent a fair bit of money because their owners are willing to put it in. But KSE ain't going to do that. They never have and they never will. And because the structure is wrong, that's why Arsenal are falling apart. That's why Arsenal are in decline. It's not necessarily, for me anyway, personally, and that's just my opinion, about the amount of money spent, about the value of what we're spending in the transfer market. Because for me, we spent 72 on Pepe. We spent 45 on Partey. We spent 50 just now on Ben White. You know, we've spent big money on Aubameyang, Lacazette in the past, Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, etc. So it isn't just about money. Money's part of it. We'd like to see some more pumped in. We all agree that we probably need it if we're going to get back to the top. But it's not just about money with me anyway. It's about the management style, the passive management style that irritates me. It's about people coming and telling me be excited when they're not even present most of the time. That's what frustrates me, of all things, among others. Right. What else have we got here? Just before I am going to leave it there because, yep, as you rightly point out in the chat, I've got some birthday cake to munch on. Gino Corleone, again, with another kind super chat donation. Thank you. Says, from the master Wenger to dishwasher Arteta, what do you expect, my friend? Brilliant stuff. Right. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you've hit that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. If you want to go one further and support me in bringing you more content, you can do so by clicking on the link in the description and signing up to our membership scheme. Remember, there is members only content coming out after each and every fixture now as well. So plenty more to look forward to in that sense. I'm going to go off and pour myself a nice glass of Chivas with ice, put my feet up, have a slice of birthday cake and watch the telly. I'll catch you all tomorrow with more Arsenal related content. Until then, take care. Cheers.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.